What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about both the biggest rumor we've ever gotten about Scream 7 and also potentially the worst rumor we've ever gotten for Scream 7. And this came from Craven Something Scary, a close friend of the channel, and his video was kind of the catalyst for this movement. So what you should know is right back in April, there was a lot of rumors that Chris Landon, who had done like the Happy Death Day films, right? There was some weird behavior going on with his Instagram, with his Twitter, following Matthew Lillard, following the core four, being the biggest and really the main things that he did that kind of set people off. And once Steven had done his video on Craven Something Scary, it seemed like everybody just kind of came out of the woodwork, Critical Overlord amongst others, and said, hey, we've heard similar things. And again, the rumor, in case you guys haven't seen it, so Radio Silence is not going to be directing Scream 7. It's the rumor. Now, a lot of people are talking about it as if it's fact, and I get it. I mean, because it's such a big deal that I think when people say, okay, well, what about Nev Campbell? What about like the core four? Do we feel comfortable with the director switching for the third movie in a trilogy? You know, all of this stuff, right? Is it still the same writers? We don't even technically know that. There's a lot of things that are up in the air. It's making people upset. It's making people mad. And I think it's fair to, you know, at least when people talk about it, again, that kind of like terminology that slips in where people are almost assuming it is real. It could change. That was the caveat with all of these people's videos and all of the leaks and rumors, is this was pre-strike that this whole situation was happening. It's possible things change or things turn around. Now, I would say if you've decided a few months ago that you're not going with a certain directing team, I don't think that changes. But yeah, to be fair and to kind of just be flat across the board, yeah, you throw in there the things could change, right? Honestly, I'm thinking it's not going to change. Now, the rumor also was, I believe that they would stay on as producers. Radio Silence would be producers of the film, but they wouldn't be the directors. So for me, a couple of things that we really honestly do need to talk about. Number one, I'm not a fan either. So let me just throw that out there. I'm a huge, I think it's a terrible decision, to be honest with you. I don't know why the move would be made. Maybe scheduling, maybe they just weren't feeling it, maybe Paramount wasn't feeling, whatever it was. But I think it's a really, really bad move, just in terms of keeping like the gang together. Like, you know, I know a lot of people have a lot of problems, and it seems like as time has gone on, more and more people have voiced their criticism for Scream 5 and 6. I think that's more than fair. I think you're allowed to do that. I would say, though, I feel like there's almost a consensus amongst those people. I think it's the writing. I think if anybody has a problem with 5 and 6, generally, at least what I've seen, you guys can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, generally what I've seen, it's what happens, it's the plot, it's the writing, it's not the directing. 5 felt very, very much like a Scream movie. Maybe too much. Maybe it was playing it too safe, right? That was one of the arguments with Scream 5, but it felt like Wes Craven would have directed that thing. Then you go to 6, and the direction of 6 I thought was incredibly good. I loved the New York setting. I loved how everything looked. I loved how everything looked. I loved how everything felt. It felt different. And I think the visual style and how it was literally directed was a big part of it. So just from the filmmaking side of things, I think Matt and Tyler are incredibly, incredibly talented. And I think switching them out is a terrible idea. That's only one reason, though. There's actually several. Second reason is just the connection everybody has together. Okay. So again, like, have your disagreements or have your arguments with what's wrong with 5 and 6. A big thing for me is not just Nev Campbell, right? Obviously, people bring that up where, you know, she got the letter from Matt, and I mean, she's brought up like 10,000 times, right? She got the letter from Matt and Tyler, and they kind of won her over. Well, if it's a new director now, does that director have to, even if it's the same writers, right? Does the new director have to win her over? That's a huge thing, and that does scare me because it's I feel like it's always a 50-50 shot, and then we already got the winning dice roll. Does that make sense? Right? So, like, you're always going to be kind of up in the air if these returning characters want to return, and I guess in that I meant, like, Nev and Courtney and even, like, Hayden, right? Like, these people. And so you always have, like, well, maybe they will, maybe they won't. But then, like, the last team won her over. Radio Silence won her over. And then if they're swapped out, it's like, well, now you kind of have to go through that again. Would she still be comfortable with a new thing? So Nev is a big deal for sure. I'm not discounting that. But I would like to throw in one other thing. It's the core four. Now, I'm not saying they can reject it, right? I'm sure there was something kind of built in their contract where this was a 3-picture thing. You can't drop them, or they can't drop the film. I would be very confident in saying that. Maybe there's ways they can negotiate like better pays as the movies go on, but I can't imagine they'd say, okay, well, because the directors switched, we are not good. Like Melissa says, I'm done. I'm not doing, like, there's no way, you know what I mean? However, there's like the personal side of things, and I definitely don't want to discount it when you're talking about acting, because you know what I mean, because that's a big deal. If you're not really feeling it, and obviously they have an environment that really works for them, both with each other, and now that may help, right, because they're all still together, but with each other, and then with just the team in general. How do they feel about the writers? Now the writers, you know, who knows how they necessarily feel about them, but we do know how they feel about Matt and Tyler, right? I think they've been more than clear, everybody on set, how much they love Matt and Tyler. So, you know, again, like, are they going to quit? Well, they probably can't. It's probably some contractual thing, but how they just feel about the situation, and then does that kind of come to life in the performance, is a big deal. There's been talk about Chris Landon, if he is the director. You know, he's more of a comedic horror director, not so much like what Scream is. So, I agree with people in saying, like, I don't want him to take Scream too comedic. I mean, Scream has its jokes, for sure. It's got some comic relief characters, even, honestly, scattered throughout the entire film franchise, but it's not literally a horror comedy. That's absolutely not. It's a slasher, you know, horror film. So I would be worried that he would take it kind of too far. Now, again, I guess the third and final thing is the writing team. So when you say Matt and Tyler aren't coming back, or really, I think the rumor is Radio Silence is not directing the thing. Radio Silence is producing it. Well, what about the writer? So do we still have Jamie and Guy being the writers? Now, this could be more like people don't care about it. I would say this, though. I would say this. When we've talked about the writing quality, but we've also talked about, or at least I've talked, like continuity. I guess I got to throw in like Star Wars here, just because it's an easy example in my head. Star Wars, the Disney, you know, sequel trilogy, had no direction, right? Like, literally no direction. Writers, directors, all swapped. Nobody had a clue what was happening. Kathleen Kennedy did a terrible job there, right? Whether they're like average, below average, above average. Now, again, maybe you can say, okay, throw the writing team out, get somebody else in. You have to understand what the writing team did with five. And I think this is why it's so difficult, right? Because it is possible, but I just feel like it's more work. And I don't know the talent of Hollywood. I feel like the talent of Hollywood is generally below average nowadays, right? If you brought in new writers, you have to truly understand not just Scream, but also what they did in 5 and 6. And then you have to wrap it up in 7. There's just a part of me that really doesn't like the idea. And I know, like, Scream 3 had the same, like, the writing swapped out, right? And that was I think you could feel that. You know, I really believe that comes through in the movie. So I think it's hard in any film franchise if you do 2 movies and the directors and writers are the same, and you do the third movie, and if one of them is swapped, if both of them are swapped, I believe you can feel that. And I also think in general that's just not a good idea, whether it's been so-so the first 2 movies, whether they've been bad, whether they've been great. There's something kind of building there. And to swap it out in the third installment, I don't know what you're going to get. I feel it's a much more wild card scenario, and I feel like the odds of it being bad or a failure or not living up to the first 2 is a higher possibility to happen. Again, it is possible, it's better. But I mean, like, from where I'm coming from, I really like Scream 6. I'm sorry. I know it's becoming the more and more less popular opinion. Actually, it's the unpopular opinion now. But I really like Scream 6. Now, yes, could the writing have done some work? Yes. Have they had issues with, like, the reveals, the motives of these movies? Yes. There's some clear weaknesses in the writing. But I think generally it was a pretty good film. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion for sure. But I guess my main point is, you know, obviously not having Matt and Tyler, I think just from a visual perspective and a personality thing, not just with the movie, but also with the cast and how that would feel. I think that's a huge thing. But then you talk about the writers as well, and it's a 50-50 thing. Again, it's a 50-50 thing. You're going to get people that understand, and like I could throw that in too. It's something that's always worried me. You know, you talk about the Nev Campbell situation with like, say, a new director coming in. Like, for Scream, I demand at least, okay? It's not, I guess it's not like this for every franchise, but because of how much Scream means to me, it's very important for me that new people coming in, they respect it, right? So many times in Hollywood nowadays, in the last 10 years, what do you often have? Remakes that completely disregard the source material, new like reboots, right? And Scream made fun of this, but reboots that just push off the old main characters, make them pathetic, and make, a Star Wars situation, say with Luke Skywalker. That's my personal opinion, that so much of Hollywood is bad. And a lot of these directors, a lot of these writers, they do not care whatsoever. Not all, but I believe the vast majority in this like AAA kind of market. So I get worried that no matter what happens, you swap anybody out for Scream, it's again a 50-50 shot of, I demand people, like, you can tell Matt and Tyler love Scream. You can absolutely tell. You can tell they know Scream. They respect Scream. You do not know any, like, after that's gone, you got that 50-50 shot again. Not just with, like, negotiating with Nev. But you got a 50-50 shot if they even care all that much, or if they want to do, I mean, yes, doing your own thing is something you should do. I mean, you have to kind of reinvent the wheel, but making Scream literally not Scream is something that's always a risk anytime you get a new kind of group in. And I thought we could kind of kick that or delay it till Scream 8, right? I think a lot of us expected Scream 8 would be like a brand new team, and it makes sense and it's fine. But again, you would then have that 50-50 coin flip of, do these people respect Scream or do they not? And it's not a guarantee that they would. And now it's not going to be a guarantee that, again, if it's true. I know I'm also talking about it as if it's happening, as if it's confirmed. But, again, as long as the rumors were true, as long as Steven isn't lying, which I highly doubt, and Critical Overlord has heard the same thing. I trust these people a lot. So as long as these sources that told them these, as long as they're legit, there's really no reason, I think, to doubt it. And I know things can change, but again, like, you do this pre-strike, what would have changed pre-strike to after strike? What, you're going to go back to radio silence and say, yeah, we've had 2 months to think about it, we kind of want you back? I feel like they've already made their choice, and they're not going to switch that. So, not great. I mean, this is, like I said, this is the worst, like, rumor so far. The only rumor that could be worse is if, like, I guess the Jenna Ortega one was potentially really, really bad. Like, if you do this without Jenna and Tara is in it for like 5 minutes, that would be atrocious, and that'd be really, really bad. So maybe that's the worst thing. But this is maybe a 1A, 1B kind of situation. Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.